Here we go. Welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Over T.E.A.S. My name is Nija Howard. I am your host today, and I am super excited to be here. Another day of quarantine, but never ever feeling alone. We are here with you. We are in your room. We're in your living room. We're speaking with you, and we're providing you good information for single moms or single parents out there who just need information on just how to make their sons better, how to make their husbands better. Today, we're going to be talking about uncovering toxic masculinity and what that actually looks like. We have a special guest today, and I'm so glad and so honored that he's here. He's a special guy, and I'm just honored. He is CEO of his own companies. He has worked with mindfulness with men throughout Louisiana. He's always putting out outstanding content to engage, empower, and unite men throughout the triaspora. And I'm just so excited to have him here. So I want you to please welcome today my guest. I'm so happy, Mr. Orhan. And I'm just so happy if you just introduce yourself and however you want to introduce yourself to the world here.
Thank you, Naja. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity with you and talking about something that is very near and dear to me. And so thank you for this platform and this space to be able to do so. How are you today?
I'm doing well. God is good. I am never ever complaining, Orhan. It is hot in New York City today, and so for these last, I guess you could say several weeks, I always wore like these. I wear these nice summer dresses and light wear. You know, I try to keep my home airy and air conditioner on just to keep myself cool.
Right.
So,
and well, I'm joining you from South Louisiana, and so I share with you in the heat.
yes.
And so when you were talking about the teas, I was like, I can't do a hot tea today, so I brought a cold tea.
Fantastic.
Me being half Turkish, it's a Turkish black tea, but I chilled it because the hot tea it's not going to do it when it's 110 degrees outside heat index. But it's a pleasure to join you on that one. Or it could be bourbon. I don't know.
Or it could be bourbon, right? Well, today I have my wild zinger. The great thing about mine is but I did something very unique. Similar to you. It was hot, but I put ice cubes in it. So now it's like got that warm, hot, nice flavor. And I still love that kind of flavor as well. So
absolutely.
Nice palate. So let's jump right on into our topic today of uncovering toxic masculinity. Now, this is one of my favorite topics, Orhan, just because anything that surrounds just the growth and development of men, in particular African-American men, I'm always trying to figure out ways to uncover all of the underlying issues that surround our men. So one of the topics that became very popular lately is this topic of toxic masculinity. What is your definition of toxic masculinity? Just jump right into it.
Sounds good. Toxic masculinity is the idea that men and the idea of masculinity, that it has to live up to a certain definition, a certain understanding of machoism, of strength, of bearing the weight, of having the answers, of not being vulnerable, not showing emotion. And in that, that is being, displayed to our young men in our lives as we as adult men and grown men fall into those categories of not understanding who we are as men.
Absolutely. And I think it's important that we be able to, and especially in the African-American community, over 60% of the household is run by women. So oftentimes we have so many young boys who are growing up not having these male role models. And so, much of what you're saying about that social construct of whatever male man is,
Right.
You know, it's like man is aggressive, man is mean, man is, you know,
Strong or
strong, don't
invincible,
cry.
or, and you know, and you mentioned about, you know, youth, and so, you know, they're forced to, they find their definition of manhood online, and so they go on, they search, and they see these overzealous, representations of what we think a man is, and then they download that information, trying to mirror that, as we do as kids in general, and so they're coming up with this poor, wrong information about what that even means, and then displaying that and growing up with that. And it's not even single parent households, it's, you know, dual parent households, just left with that misunderstanding about the decades of us learning about what it was to be a man. You know, that's kind of why I started my group Manfulness Living, is because as I began to engage with other men, I began to realize that there was this misconception about what manliness and manhood meant. And you know, if we look at the historical definition and the things that we have been given through that, it is this macho image of no vulnerability, and like I said, you know, strong and handling things. And so as I began to interview more men over the years, since the 2 years that I've had the organization and the group, what I found is that men were having trouble connecting with their sons, with their children in general. But they had this idea that, you know, they couldn't go home, they couldn't show the issues they had at work that day. They were afraid to connect with their significant others, showing weakness and things. And so that's where this idea of toxic masculinity came to be understood and spoken about, was that it's not an authentic way for anyone to be. And it's a stereotype and an image that we are trying to live up to, that in reality isn't part of who we are as humans or as men.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, you know, earlier you were saying how a lot of our young people, they tend to, excuse me, they tend to go online, and whatever they visualize online, they deposit that information in, and whatever that looks like is what they're trying to emulate. And you know, that is so so true. And I also want to add to that, that depending on what community these young people come from, if they don't have computers to even look at, they're looking at the, you know, the undesirables on the outside, who might be drug dealers, or, you know, but they're driving these nice cars, and this is the kind of lifestyle they want to live.
Exactly.
So that's their idea of what manhood looks like. So therefore, you know, I'm going to step outside and I'm going to emulate what I see out there. And so,
Exactly. I mean, they see that in their representation in their communities and stuff, and they say, well, that must be what it means. That guy looks cool. He got nice clothes. He's got swag. He's got, you know, airs about him. Look at that car he's driving. Listen to music. Those things, this hyper masculinity, hypersexual understanding of what manhood is. And when that's a false thing, but then of course it's a natural thing to want to emulate that, wanting to mirror that, if that's the only understanding we have about what it means to be a man or a male in this world.
how would you define man? What is a man? What is that?
That, I knew you were going to ask that question. And I've sat with this question because I'm like, so what is man? You know, what does man represent? And I think that's honestly, if you really look at it from like a social status or social history aspect, we divided between woman and man. But there are different human characteristics of that. But as far as expectations and societal behaviors and what we can and can't do and achieve, things like that, we've separated those things, and we've seen how that's been done throughout our history. But to answer your question, what is it to be a man? In my opinion, to be a human, just to be an individual, to understand who you are and how you come to the earth, what your dreams and aspirations want to be, how do you want to affect your family, your community, yourself. And that can also be the definition of, I think, of what it means to be a woman. Just what kind of human do you want to be? And if we pull those things out of that, those individual stereotypes, it's really just a matter of who do we want to be on this planet as we live here.
Yeah, that's outstanding. You know, one of the things I know, I study one of the wonderful leaders, authors, inspirational innovators, Dr. Joy DeGruy. And I know when I was reading some of her literature, she was indicating that, in order to, understand chattel slavery and transgenerational trauma in the African American culture and slavery, oftentimes our young men, and she did a study of about 200 young African American men. And one of the studies she was doing was that she was trying to uncover why there was so much anger. And oftentimes, she equated the fact that a lot of times the young men are feeling angry because of the fact that they feel disrespected, right? And there's a linkage of not having an identity from all the way back from slavery. So not having this sense of self, a sense of identity of knowing who you are, anything anyone could throw at you become a threat, and all of a sudden you begin to demonstrate this level of aggression or violence or abusive behavior. And you know and that all stems from just not knowing who you are,
Exactly.
right?
And I think that, that comes down, that's a very good point that you make. It's a lack of identity. It's a lack of self. It's a lack of understanding. Unfortunately, in our society today, we're not taught to think about things like that. We're not taught to think about, what do I want to do? How do I want to come to the world? What is my self-worth? There's so many misunderstandings and misleading things in our society that we've set up, our systems, our institutions, et cetera, that don't ever give us the value of who you are. So then, therefore, if you're a young individual growing up and you feel that you're powerless, and that's where the anger comes from. I don't care who you are. I think there's a couple basic things that we want to feel as humans: to be seen, to be heard, to know that we're of value. Those three things are ultimately all that we all want. And then what happens is I see grown men my age who have grown up without that idea, who have then latched on to this cultural identity of who they should be, what kind of work they should do, where they should live, wives, children, or no children, anything like that. But when you sat and asked them, so what is your definition of being content? What is fulfillment to you? You get this look of, why are you asking me that question? That's never been a question that's been asked of me. And so then, as male role models and males in our life, we have young individuals looking for those answers too, that we don't even have the answers to give them to. And then therefore the cycle continues.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why, with all due respect and humility to all the, male organizations out there that are, pouring so much positivity, at least they're trying to pour into young boys, right? It's like men organizations pouring into the younger men. I love those organizations, right? Because these are wonderful organizations where men are coming together to really help provide some kind of structure and guidance and stability for these younger men where they didn't have role models. But one of the things I have to be very transparent in my truth in saying, and this is one of the things that, and one of the reasons why I started an organization for men, me being a female and a woman, is because I feel there's such a disconnect and a lack of a strong female woman's voice in the male community. There's got to be balance.
Yes.
Like you was saying, you know, it's like with the blind leading the blind. You might be, you may be older and wiser in some ways, but if you still are struggling with your own identity or your own self-worth, or you're still struggling with who you are and what your purpose is, you may be older and more wiser than the 14-year-old in front of you, but you're still seeking some kind of structure yourself.
Right, exactly. And I like to do it this way. So like computer operating systems. So you may be operating on an old, outdated Windows 98, something like that. And I'm sure if anybody young is like, who, Windows 98? But if you're operating off, you're still operating off of a misguided system. I mean, it's what our country is doing. We're operating off of a system that has been built upon injustice and inequality, but you're still operating on the system. So anything that you're going to come from is going to be based on that computer system that you're running on. You need to reboot the system. We need to upgrade the software. We need to find a new way of operating, is what I'm hearing you say. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise, you're just giving out the same information, which is the systematic repeat that we see over and over.
Absolutely. And I don't believe that, women have all the answers, but I do believe collectively as a team, we can come up with real sound direction for the younger generation. And I believe that when you are missing an element to the whole, then you're missing part of the information. So I'm very leery about the information that's being poured into our young men when it's just men who are overseeing them.
Right. Exactly.
Because you definitely need the structure of a woman to say, and a strong woman, right? Because there are some women. There's different people, there's different women, different men, and this is what we were saying today about what is a man, right? And I love your answer, because yes, it really is human.
Human.
And so
it's the fundamental principles that make us who we are, right?
right.
It's humanness, kindness,
Goodness,
unity, being a good person, valuing myself, listening to. Those
right.
are the basic things that transcend gender, or gender, even gender identity. And so, that's what I get. That's what I do when I discover a lot as I'm working with. I don't have kids. And so people are like, how are you talking? Who, what? And I was like, but it doesn't matter about whether I have children, whether I'm married or anything. It's fundamental basic principles of listening, of sharing, of making mistakes, letting everyone know that mistakes are part of it, letting the ones that we have influence over know that those things we see outside may seem fulfilling, but they really aren't, because if they were, we wouldn't be in the state that we are now in our country, where we are constantly seeking the next thing, the next shiny object, the next money, the next cash. We keep doing those things. We never have found a way to fulfill ourselves with it, which is why we keep perpetuating the problem. But the void is there. The void, the loss, everything else is still there.
So I definitely want to talk a little bit about how do we fill that void. But before we get there, I just wanted to make a little bit of a snippet point inside. Oftentimes people do say, well, because you are not a man, you don't know what it's like to be a man or know what a man's needs are. One of the statements that I'm very, very passionate about dispelling is the myth of only a man can raise a man. So when you say statements like, well, because I don't have any children, there's a lot of people out there who probably believe that, oh, well, he has no kids, so my ears go deaf. He doesn't know what he's saying, But the reality is that, you don't have to be the same gender in order to, or have children in order to provide some real structure, sound guidance. I myself, one time a person said to me, you being a coach and a mental health counselor, and only raising boys, what do you say for mothers who are raising daughters? And you know what? They're right. I don't have any daughters, but you know what? I was once a daughter.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So it's so we have to be very careful how we say certain things. So no, you may not have any children, but you was once a child, right?
Absolutely. And I may not. I hear what you're saying when you say, you don't understand what it's be like to men. No, I mean, maybe a female does not relate to the experience that a male has, much less a African-American male or a male of color or anything else. I may not be able to relate to that experience, but I do relate as someone who is representing and raising a child, who wants the best for their child. And when you really break it all down, the basic fundamental foundation of all of that are the same thing. They're basic, common things that we all desire. Now, if you are a female raising boys, then if you want a male influence, then that's where the mentoring programs, that's where neighbors, that's where, like I said, I have no kids, but I have got more kids in my life than most people that do have kids, because I've got godkids and nieces and nephews and I get people that send me kids, and we talk with them, hang out, all these things, because they understand that I have a perspective. And as a male, I can offer a male perspective, but I'm not trying to tell anybody how to raise a kid or how to be a man. I'm just trying, all I do is just show you how to be a human. All of the other things, it sorts itself out.
So in other words, knock out the boxes, knock down all the walls, and let's just be. How about that?
What if we got rid of the idea that I have to have a man or a woman or this, that, and the other raise me? What if I just raised a good human? And all the other basics, because what I see a lot of the times, or what I experience in my research and my interviews, is that we move the human out and we're too busy worried about what this influence is and this influences, but we've lost the common understanding of what it means to be a human. And how's that working for us?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I have to speak, and that's so true and so right in and of itself. But when I think about this masculine toxic masculinity, and when I hear about all these thought process of, what a man is supposed to do, what a man can do, what men should do, that whole social construct that boys can do whatever they want, boys will be boys, when it comes to women and sex, they could do whatever they want. It's like a machismo thing. I got 50 women, being aggressive and being inflexible and lack of understanding. Those are not what men are. That's not my definition of a man, right? And
what
so
comes to me in that is the word power. So it's a power. Now there's power that we think is power, which is everything you just said, all of those items that make us think we're powerful and strong and solid, but it's not. Those are all exterior influences that mean nothing. They're not tangible. It's the inner power that matters. It's the inside that we connect with ourselves. That's the only true power we have. Not all, none of those things are very positive, but it is good to have a good life or good expectation, all these things. But if you don't have this connection with yourself, then all of those things are things we continue to reach for in an empty way. And so it doesn't take a man or a woman or anybody of any particular gender or gender identity to help kids learn what their power is.
Right.
And the
Absolutely.
power is your value, that you're valuable,
Absolutely.
that you have a voice, that you were put on this earth for a reason. All of those things. And that's the key. Keep it simple. We overcomplicate things. We overcomplicate all of this stuff. Keep it simple. That's simple. One of the main things.
I love it. I love it. Keep it simple. It's like KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean? Let's keep it simple.
Don't overthink this.
So one of the things as we wrap up, Orhan, I want to kind of like give 10 really fun, easy, simple definitions of what the new man should look like versus what the social construct should look like. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. I can't do all 10. So
I'll do 5. You do 5. How about that?
All right, maybe 6 and 4. All right, let's play a game with it. All right. So the new words that come to mind about what I see and what we see as the new man. What's the new man?
Yes.
My first one is vulnerable.
Ooh, I love it. Mine is integrity.
That's a good one. Reflective.
Ooh.
Reflective.
Ooh, I love that. Reflective. Compassionate.
Ooh, I love that one. I'm a partner with that one, with empathy.
Yes. Empathy. Yes. Next one would be kind.
Yeah. Kind is power.
Kind
you don't. I'm gonna pause in a minute on a little number thing, but that's what you don't see in the understanding of masculinity. There's nowhere in there as a kind. Kind is powerful. Kind is very powerful.
Yes.
I would add joyful.
Yes, we need joy. Woo!
Have fun.
That is everything, Orhan.
That's it.
That is everything. All right, I think we're up to what, 7?
6, I think. I'll go with 7 so we don't have to do it.
All right. So I got number 8. Number 8 is, I would say, Wise.
Mm. Yeah.
There's a difference between wise and being intelligent.
Yes. Yeah.
So wisdom is so important.
I would add 9. I would say connectivity, connection.
Ooh,
One of the things that we as men, I mean, I trust me, I experience this to myself, is we're afraid to reach out. We're afraid to connect. We're
yes,
afraid to open up ties with vulnerability, but connection, reach out, make connections, connect with other people.
yes. And I would say number 10 would be being flexible.
Ooh, flexible is good.
Being
Being,
flexible. You know,
I'm
we
gonna go
have to
with an
understand.
11 because I gotta
All
say
right,
that.
let's do it. Bonus, bonus, bonus,
Your bonus
bonus,
round is,
bonus
ma'am,
round, bonus round.
uh, authentic. Just
Yes.
be authentic. We got.
I love it. I love it. That was so much fun.
That is. That was a great one. You caught me off guard on that too. That's all right. And I think I'll add this to it. Again, don't overthink it. There's no true right or wrong. Do the best you can with it. And whatever the environment you find this young person in, it's the environment they're in. Don't overthink that. All environments have something wonderful and beautiful and caring, and just find a way of expressing that and keep it simple. Keep it all simple to the basic things that our grandmothers and great grandmothers thought about, or grandfathers, but more, those individuals, when you really think about it, they kept it simple. And I think that's one of our rules of thumb is what would my grandmother or great grandmother, great grandfather say at this point? And there were less words. There weren't a lot of words.
There wasn't a lot of words. Oh,
They were.
Orhan, thank you so much.
You're so
You
welcome.
have been amazing.
You are amazing.
You have been amazing. I really appreciate you being here. Let's talk over teas. We just uncovered some really fun ways and fun topics. We got under the real nitty gritty of just uncovering what toxic masculinity is. But what I really love is that we was able to even provide some really fun ways to define the new man, right? And I think that's really what's important, is being able to hear this and say, you know what? I don't have to listen to what the world says, what society says I'm supposed to be. I can listen to my heart. I can be kind. I can walk the super senior across the street. And those things are so important. And also the concept of knowing that even if you are raised by a woman, you can still be all powerful man.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And even if you're raised by a man who has no children,
Right.
you still can be a powerful man.
Absolutely. Connect with our humanness. It's the one thing that connects us is our humanness.
That's it. So that's what connects us all. So again, thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk Over Teas. Again, as we wrap this up, it's all about when we strengthen our boys and men, we stabilize our girls and our women. Thank you, Orhan. You're super.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.